Chapter 948. That's the third sword domain. Not good. Brother Blackwater is in danger. The yellow-robed old man's eyes almost popped out. He had never imagined that Yi Chen's sword domain would break through to the third sword domain. He was very clear about how terrifying the third sword domain was. He remembered that 10 years ago, he had personally witnessed 3 titled monarchs ganging up on the Azure Sky Sword Emperor in a king-grade forbidden ground in the starry sky. Among these 3 titled monarchs, one was a high-grade 5-star monarch, while the other 2 were mid-grade 5-star monarchs. When they joined forces, they could practically walk unhindered among 5-star titled monarchs. However, the Azure Sky Sword Emperor was even more tyrannical. With his third sword domain, he was actually able to suppress them. In the end, the battle ended on a sour note. In the eyes of the yellow-robed old man, the third sword domain had all sorts of terrifying aspects. Firstly, it could produce an unparalleled sword pressure on the opponent. Secondly, it could seal the space, making it unbreakable. Thirdly, it could multiply the speed of the person who released the sword domain, increasing the might of his sword art. It was so powerful that it could strike fear in the hearts of others. Although there were some titled monarchs as powerful as the Azure Sky Sword Emperor, such as Su King, Air Emperor, Black Dragon Ancestor, and Zhan Tianxiang Emperor, the one the yellow-robed old man feared the most was the Azure Sky Sword Emperor. This was because he couldn't even escape if he encountered the Azure Sky Sword Emperor. His sword domain could completely trap him. Of course, Su King and Air Emperor were also very powerful. They weren't the slightest bit inferior to the Azure Sky Sword Emperor. The 2 of them were proficient in spatial profundity. The Azure Sky Sword Emperor's sword domain could only exert some pressure on them. Moreover, they all had their own unique techniques. Especially Su King. He was faintly superior to the rest. The moment Yi Chen's sword domain appeared, the yellow-robed old man immediately knew that the Blackwater ancestor wouldn't be a match for Yi Chen. Fortunately, Yi Chen's sword domain wasn't as terrifying as the Azure Sky Sword Emperor's. It was only at the early stage third sword domain. Moreover, his battle prowess was far from the Azure Sky Sword Emperor's. As long as he made a move, he could still force the Azure Sky Sword Emperor back. In the blink of an eye, the Blackwater ancestor's speed was reduced by 10 times under Yi Chen's sword domain. On the other hand, Yi Chen's sword speed had doubled. Bang! Holding the sword with both hands, Yi Chen slashed at Ancestor Blackwater's body 3 times in a row. The first and second strikes shattered Patriarch Blackwater's illusory armor. The third strike caused Patriarch Blackwater's body to tremble violently, as though he had been struck by lightning. How could the yellow-robed old man's silk finger force do anything to him? You broke my gold jade silk finger so easily. Good. I wonder how you will break my yellow dragon flying hands next. The yellow-robed old man's huge hand grinded in the void, as if he was spinning a huge millstone. In the next moment, the space was torn apart, and a huge yellow dragon charged at Yi Chen. The yellow dragon moved like a beam of light, and was almost impossible to catch. Yellow Dragon Flying Hands was a martial skill that specialized in speed. It specialized in restraining life and death kings who were too fast to escape. With this skill, the yellow-robed old man had once killed a peak king who had provoked him. Although that peak king was not as powerful as Yi Chen, and was proficient in the space profound, he was proficient in the wind profound and thunder profound. With these 2 profounds as the foundation, he had created a wind-thunder escape art. Ordinary titled monarchs could not do anything to him. Sword domain, Big Dipper 7-star sword arts combine. Yi Chen released the 3rd layer of sword domain to the limit, instantly enveloping the yellow-robed old man. At the same time, he threw out his right hand, and the Sky Scorpio sword floated in the air, blossoming with resplendent starlight. As the starlight flickered continuously, 7 different starlight sword images appeared. These 7 sword images formed the Big Dipper 7-star sword arts, brimming with killing intent. Go! As Yi Chen pointed out his right sword finger, 7 sword images flickered and shot out. Like a torrential rain on pear blossoms, the 7 sword images turned into 49 sword images, which then turned illusory and hid in the void. In the next moment, only starlight could be seen flickering, but no sword images could be seen. It was like a sky full of stars, shrouding everything in front of it. Puff, 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 puff. Although the huge yellow dragon formed from the palm energy was extremely fast, it was useless in the face of this sword technique that covered the heavens and earth. The countless streaks of sword light that resembled shooting stars slashed at its body, causing it to lose its strength continuously. Just the Big Dipper 7-star sword art alone couldn't be considered as Yi Chen's killing move, and could only be considered as a finishing move. However, with the third layer of sword domain, the Big Dipper 7-star sword art's power and speed increased greatly, and the sword intent it contained was even more concentrated. In short, the sword domain was like an amplifier, greatly increasing the power of the sword control art. Of course, the prerequisite was that the opponent was within the range of the sword domain. Otherwise, the Big Dipper 7-star sword art wouldn't be enough. Unless Yi Chen could cultivate the sword control art to the level of 64 simultaneous swords, and then use the 8 trigrams extermination sword art, it would become Yi Chen's killing move even without relying on sword domain. Unfortunately, the sword control art was getting harder and harder to cultivate. According to the legends, there was indeed someone who cultivated the sword control art to the level of 72 simultaneous swords at the Sea of Soul realm. However, that person only cultivated the sword control art for his entire life, and the others were just supplementary skills. He spent his entire life cultivating the sword control art to the level of 72 simultaneous swords. How many years had Yi Chen cultivated it? Plus, at that time, the defensive sword spell had not been lost, and there were still a lot of people training it. Some of the martial geniuses were standing on the shoulders of the older generation, so it was not strange at all for them to be able to train it quickly. It was just like if there was a senior who had trained the defensive sword spell and told him his experience, he would also be able to train it quickly and reach the realm of 72 or even 81 sword attacks in a short time. Right now, Yi Chen's sword control art had already reached the level of 56 simultaneous swords. He was not far from using the 8 trigrams extermination sword art, only a few steps away. No matter what, only in Yi Chen's hands would the sword control art be able to flourish and become famous. Yi Chen's soul might not be able to stand at the top of the world, but it would at least be the best in this generation. Under the attack of countless meteor sword lights, the huge yellow dragon only lasted for a breath's time before turning into ashes. Swish, swish, the remaining meteor sword lights shot toward the yellow-robed old man, slicing through the space. You're even proficient in the lost sword control art. Moreover, its might is several times greater than the legendary sword control art. Take a look at my great Luo yellow robe. The yellow-robed old man made a prompt decision and tore off his yellow robe. As his Zhen Yuan surged, the yellow robe seemed to be filled with air and expanded unceasingly. In the end, it reached several li in circumference and covered the sky, blocking in front of the yellow-robed old man. As soon as the meteor sword lights came in contact with the huge yellow robe, they disappeared without a trace, unable to deal much damage to the old man. They couldn't even threaten him. A veteran-titled monarch is indeed a veteran-titled monarch. Old ancestor Blackwater can't compare to him. Yi Chen wasn't surprised. As a veteran-titled monarch, the yellow-robed old man definitely had many methods and treasures. After all, the stronger one was, the higher the chance of obtaining treasures. The weaker ones wouldn't even dare to enter dangerous places, so naturally, they wouldn't be able to obtain powerful treasures. With Yi Chen's eyesight, it wasn't hard to tell that the yellow-robed old man's yellow robe should be a mid-tier peak-grade treasure. It wasn't something ordinary peak-grade treasures could compare to. The Big Dipper 7-star sword art didn't pose any threat to the yellow-robed old man. Yi Chen immediately stopped the execution of this sword art. A slit opened on his forehead, and a silver vertical eye appeared. Soul light! Pooh! A silver beam of light shot out from the silver vertical eye. The yellow robe could contain qi, but it couldn't contain soul power. The silver beam of light passed through the robe without any obstruction, and entered the old man's soul sea. Ah! Soul whirlpool! Absorb! The yellow-robed old man didn't guard against Yi Chen's soul attack. However, his reaction wasn't slow either. He immediately condensed a soul whirlpool in his soul sea and sucked in the silver light. Crackle! The silver light's power was immense. It was Yi Chen's innate ability. The soul whirlpool only absorbed half of the silver light's power before it was destroyed. In the next moment, the yellow-robed old man bled from his 7 orifices. His soul was injured. Actually, if he had been prepared earlier, it would have been much better. Unfortunately, the yellow robe was too huge, so he couldn't sense the silver light's arrival immediately. Chapter 949. Yi Chen, how dare you injure my soul? A venomous look flashed across the yellow-robed old man's face. The soul was different from the body. If it was injured, it would be very difficult to recover. If the body was injured, it could be healed with some heavenly materials or some time. For example, if Patriarch Blackwater was injured by Yi Chen, he could recover to his peak in a year or so without any treasures or pills. But if his soul was injured, it was different. Even if he cultivated for 8 to 10 years, he might not be able to recover. Although Yi Chen's soul attack hadn't injured his soul, it had caused cracks to appear in his soul. His powerful cultivation base was starting to show signs of being unable to control it. The soul was too important. It could be said to be a person's origin. Yellow-robed old man, today's matter had nothing to do with you. Since you forcefully interfered, you have to pay a price. What, are you not satisfied? Yi Chen knew that the yellow-robed old man wasn't a good person. Since he had injured him today, he definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. However, Yi Chen himself wasn't a good person either. Great sages always abided by the rule of if others didn't offend me, I wouldn't offend others. But if someone offended him, even the heavens would make a hole in that person. These words were said with a biting cold killing intent, and a powerful sword intent was activated. Then with the power of the sword driving heart, he struck out fiercely. The yellow-robed old man groaned. Yi Chen's sword intent and heart sword ability were too powerful. He could actually condense his sword intent into a heart sword and attack the yellow-robed old man's soul. With his soul being attacked, the yellow-robed old man's battle intent fell again and again. It was already not bad if he could use 70 to 80% of his strength. Yi Chen, I hope you don't regret this. The yellow-robed old man actually still had some trump cards that he hadn't used. However, he knew that the current Yi Chen had already matured. Even if he used his trump cards, he wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Instead, he would expose his own trump cards. Furthermore, his soul had been slightly injured. If he didn't immediately think of a way to heal it, it would be too great a side effect on his future cultivation. So, after saying that, the yellow-robed old man ignored Patriarch Blackwater. He directly transformed into a yellow cloud and tore through the void, flying away. The Heavenly King was scared silly. Even Patriarch Blackwater and the yellow-robed old freak, 2 Theocrank monarchs, couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. Instead, they were both injured by him. Now that the yellow-robed old freak had left, how could the Blackwater Alliance stop Yi Chen? Patriarch Blackwater, what do you think? I don't have much time to waste with you. In 3 breaths of time, if you don't tell me where the Blackwater Alliance's Zhen Yuan crystal treasury is, I'll kill you. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level. If you die, you'll die in vain. Yi Chen knew that killing a titled monarch was very difficult. For example, he could only defeat the yellow-robed old freak, but he couldn't kill him. This was because the yellow-robed old freak's cultivation was too profound. Unless he continuously used soul attacks, even if Yi Chen exhausted his Zhen Yuan, he still wouldn't be able to kill him. As for soul light, Yi Chen could only use it 5 times. After that, he would lose his battle power. If he used it 4 times, he would at most be able to injure the yellow-robed old freak's soul, just like the Nirvana Demon Emperor. Moreover, the yellow-robed old freak definitely had more trump cards. If he wanted to kill him, Yi Chen only had 60% confidence. However, Patriarch Blackwater wasn't the yellow-robed old freak. Yi Chen had more than 90% confidence in killing him. You dare. As his flesh squirmed, Patriarch Blackwater's missing half of his body rapidly recovered. Hearing Yi Chen's threat, Patriarch Blackwater's face turned green, and his expression turned sinister. You tell me if I dare or not. As the sword domain enveloped Patriarch Blackwater, Yi Chen raised his right hand, and the Sky Scorpio sword shot out a 10-meter-long purple sword chi, which swept past Patriarch Blackwater's waist. The sword domain's restriction on Patriarch Blackwater was too strong, and Yi Chen's attack, in the sword domain, had doubled in both speed and power. Patriarch Blackwater only had time to move a dozen steps before he was fiercely brushed by the purple sword chi. With the protection of the supreme grade battle armor, the purple sword chi couldn't cut through. However, the powerful vibrating power wasn't something the armor could completely block. With a puff, Patriarch Blackwater's waist exploded into a bloody mist, and blood splashed out through the gaps of the armor. With the amplification of the sword domain, Yi Chen's heaven-inflicted sword had a huge destructive power against kings of the same realm. Ah! Patriarch Blackwater screamed miserably. He roared, "Yi Chen, my cultivation base is over 1,500 years, and I can endlessly use the undying body to recover. You can't kill me." Blood Lightning Escape. The Sanguine Lightning Escape was an escape technique recorded in the Heavy Water True Thunder art. It allowed Patriarch Blackwater to escape countless calamities. With a whoosh, Patriarch Blackwater transformed into a sanguine bolt of lightning and shot into the distance. Let's see if your Blood Lightning Escape is stronger, or my Orbital Step is stronger. Orbital Step was a space profound movement skill created by Yi Chen based on the second style of the heaven-shattering sword arts. Its movement path was the same as the ripples of space, which was why it was called Orbital Step. Taking a step forward, Yi Chen's figure directly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already behind Blackwater Ancestor's blood-colored lightning. His speed was unimaginable. Sword domain maximum range. A majestic sword pressure was released, and the blood-colored lightning slightly paused. Kill. Without showing any mercy, Yi Chen slashed over. With a crack, the blood-colored lightning was split into two, and Patriarch Blackwater tumbled out with a pale face. One of his right arms was gone, and blood splattered everywhere. Yi Chen, you are going too far. If I had known this would happen, I would have personally taken action and killed you to prevent any future troubles. Patriarch Blackwater felt despair. Even the Blood Lightning Escape couldn't escape from Yi Chen's pursuit. He had no other means left. Stubborn fool. Big Dipper 7-star sword arts. Yi Chen was a little angry. This old man wouldn't repent until he saw his coffin. There was no need to be polite with him. Countless meteor sword beams shot out towards Patriarch Blackwater. Patriarch Blackwater was about to circulate his cultivation technique and condense an illusory armor, but Yi Chen was one step ahead of him. A soul light struck his sea of soul, making him unable to control his quintessential essence. Clang! Clang! Patriarch Blackwater was sent tumbling by the meteor sword beams, and his quintessential essence flowed rapidly. The Big Dipper 7-star sword arts was a powerful sword art among the imperial sword arts. As long as Yi Chen didn't stop, he could use it forever. In the void, only meteors could be seen. Stop, quickly stop. I will tell you where the quintessential essence crystal treasury is. Patriarch Blackwater was afraid. Not only was his quintessential essence flowing rapidly, but his injuries were also worsening. Yi Chen's destruction sword intent was a great counter to the undying body, and it became more obvious as time went on. Take me there now. Yi Chen stopped attacking. Alliance Master. Are we really going to take him to the quintessential essence crystal treasury? Sky King transmitted to Patriarch Blackwater. Patriarch Blackwater replied coldly, "Let him be arrogant for a while. When he leaves, I will immediately join forces with the demon god cult, Black Fiend Island, and Old Monster Red Water to attack the Yi clan." Sky King hesitated and said, "Xianhou and Demon Flower Emperor will definitely help him. It won't be easy to deal with him. Our Blackwater alliance is already established. We need to join forces with more titled monarchs. Didn't Patriarch Golden Turtle say he wants half of the Devoured Islands? I will agree to it." Patriarch Golden Turtle. Sky King jumped in fright. The Golden Turtle Old Ancestor was an old antique who had not appeared in the world for a very long time. Not many people knew of him. The outside world only knew of the Void Emperor, and other famous titled monarchs. Little did they know that among the titled monarchs, the golden turtle old ancestor, was definitely a character several times stronger than the Void Emperor. 100 years ago, the golden turtle old ancestor had once made a move and sent the powerful Battle Heaven's Elephant Emperor flying several thousand miles away, shocking the entire monarch realm. This time, Patriarch Golden Turtle came out of seclusion and sent a messenger over to ask Blackwater Alliance to hand over half of the devoured islands. Patriarch Blackwater was a bit hesitant, but now, he had no other choice. With Patriarch Golden Turtle taking action, whether it's Demon Flower Emperor or Xianhou, they are nothing to worry about. Alliance Master is wise. Sky King looked at Yi Chun with a trace of pity, forcing me to make a choice. This time, I want him to spit out everything he took. I heard that the Yi clan still has 81 spirit veins. I will take them all. Blackwater Alliance's Zhen Yuan Crystal Treasury wasn't on Blackwater Island, but at the bottom of the sea far away from it. It was covered in a large amount of silt, and under the silt was a naturally formed rock layer. Inside the rock layer, there was a formation with a soul stone as the core. It was easy to ignore it with soul power. If not for Patriarch Blackwater leading the way, Yichen definitely wouldn't be able to find this place. Entering the Zhen Yuan Crystal Treasury, Yichen finally knew how rich Blackwater Alliance was. Not only were there mountains of Zhen Yuan crystals, there were also countless upper-grade spirit stones, and even a lot of extreme-grade spirit stones. Without any hesitation, Yichen directly plundered all the Zhen Yuan crystals. After a rough count, there were at least 30 million quintessence crystals here. 2 million quasi-low-grade Zhen Yuan crystals could increase Yichen's cultivation base by 50 years. 30 million quasi-low-grade Zhen Yuan crystals could increase his cultivation base by more than 750 years. Adding Yichen's original cultivation base, it was more or less 1,000 years. There was still a big gap between 1,000 years of cultivation base and 1,000 years of cultivation base. 1,000 years of cultivation base meant that one's cultivation base wouldn't be too weak, and rarely would one run out of Zhen Yuan. Even if one encountered someone with a higher cultivation base, one would at least have the confidence to fight back. Otherwise, with Yichen's 200 years of cultivation base, he would be easily exhausted by his opponent. After all, which-titled monarch didn't have 1,000 years of cultivation base? Watching from the side, Patriarch Blackwater felt a bit regretful. If he had known earlier, he would have promised Yi Chun to give him 3 million Zhen Yuan crystals a year. It should be known that these 30 million Zhen Yuan crystals were decades of savings of Blackwater Alliance. Although the Devouring Island could produce 20 to 30 million Zhen Yuan crystals a year, at least half of it was given to life and death kings who knew about it. The remaining 90% was divided among the 20 life and death kings of Blackwater Alliance. Under normal circumstances, it would be good if Patriarch Blackwater could save 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals a year. The increase of cultivation base requires a more powerful mind and soul. In a short period of time, he can only use a few million Zhen Yuan crystals at most. Patriarch Blackwater comforted himself. He didn't believe that Yi Chun could convert 30 million Zhen Yuan crystals into cultivation base at once. It was almost impossible. Chapter 950. After plundering all the Zhen Yuan crystals, Yi Chun waved his hand, and the mountainous pile of supreme-grade spirit stones turned into a flood and flowed into his storage ring. Yi Chun Yu, Blackwater Ancestor, was furious. The most important thing in the treasury was naturally the 30 million Zhen Yuan crystals, followed closely by the 5 million supreme-grade spirit stones. Although supreme-grade spirit stones were not as valuable as Zhen Yuan crystals were, after all, rare commodities. If not for the Devouring Island, it would be impossible for Blackwater Alliance to have so many Zhen Yuan crystals. It could be said that supreme-grade spirit stones were the hard currency among the kings of Elysium. Yi Chun taking away more than 5 million supreme-grade spirit stones in one go infuriated Blackwater Ancestor. Yi Chun glanced sideways at him and didn't pay any attention to him. Resources had to be fought for by oneself. Yi Chun naturally didn't want to seize the resources of those upright people. However, the Blackwater Alliance was different. If he didn't seize them, Yi Chen would have to work 10 times harder to reach the peak. In this world, only the strong were respected. In fact, any world could only be ruled by the strong. Yi Chen didn't want to change the world. Therefore, he wanted to be the strong of this world. After taking more than 5 million Supreme Great Spirit Stones, Yi Chen had more than 7 million Supreme Great Spirit Stones on him. Among them, more than 1 million belonged to the Fire Emperor. He originally had less than 1/10 of the total. As for the remaining upper-grade spirit stones in the Zhenyuan crystal treasury, Yi Chen mercilessly plundered them. He had no use for the upper-grade spirit stones, but the Yi family or the martial sect he would establish in the future would be able to use them. If one wanted to continue to prosper, resources would be a necessity. The consumption of resources for a martial sect would be terrifying. Worthy of being the Blackwater Alliance. There are more than 800 million upper-grade spirit stones. Adding the ones I have on me, I have more than 1 billion. What kind of concept was 1 billion upper-grade spirit stones? It was enough to support a 5th-grade sect for countless years. A titled monarch might not use upper-grade spirit stones to cultivate, but upon seeing 1 billion upper-grade spirit stones, they would definitely snatch them back. Patriarch Blackwater, thank you for your hospitality. The grudge between us has been settled. Goodbye. Yi Chen could not wait to use the quintessential crystals to increase his cultivation. As soon as he spoke, he executed the lunar path and disappeared from the quintessential crystal treasury. When he reappeared, he was already on the surface of the ocean. Whoosh! Yi Chen flew through the air. Damn it, I must kill him. Ancestor Blackwater roared and cracked the quintessential essence crystal treasury with a palm strike. Seawater surged in through the cracks. Kill him. Heavenly King was also very aggrieved. He watched helplessly as Yi Chen plundered all the wealth of the Blackwater Alliance. Although this wealth had nothing to do with him, he was envious. He never expected Patriarch Blackwater to have so much wealth. Alliance Master, are we going to Golden Turtle Island now? The Sky King asked. Patriarch Blackwater took a few deep breaths and said with a gloomy voice, I want to recover my soul injury first, then go to Golden Turtle Island to discuss the matter of destroying the Yi family and killing Yi Chen. The soul injury could not be delayed for even a moment. It was related to Patriarch Blackwater's future. Fortunately, the Blackwater Alliance was a big family, and there were still some treasures that could heal soul injuries. As for dealing with Yi Chen, this matter would have to be planned out in the long run. He did not want to teach the latter a lesson and make him spit out all the resources he had swallowed. He wanted to completely kill Yi Chen and destroy the entire Yi family. The men would be killed by 1,000 cuts and thrown into the ocean to feed the fish, and the women would all be beaten into slaves. Yi Chen is dead for sure this time. Once Golden Turtle Ancestor makes a move, how can he survive? Sky King seemed to be able to see the scene of Yi Chen's unwillingness to die. Returning to the Yi family in South Ridra region, Yi Chen immediately went into closed-door training and started refining Zhenyuan crystals to increase his cultivation base. This was a spacious stone room. The length and width of the room were each more than 300 feet, and the height was more than 10 feet. There were lamps hanging on the walls, and in the center of the room, there was a square stone platform with a navy blue praying mat placed on it. Sitting on the cushion, Yi Chen rubbed his storage ring with his fingers. Suddenly, a huge amount of Zhenyuan crystals poured out, forming a small hill beside the stone platform. I wonder if these 30 million Zhenyuan crystals can reach my saturation limit. No one could endlessly increase their cultivation base, and it was impossible for Yi Chen. Without a powerful mental state and soul, even if one refined 100 million Zhenyuan crystals into Zhenyuan, the Zhenyuan would leak out and scatter in the world, which would be a waste of effort. Normally, a life and death king, who had just entered life and death realm, would not have more than 100 years of cultivation base. Geniuses would not have more than 300 years of cultivation base. After reaching the saturation limit, one would have to slowly increase the mental state and soul strength. For example, if one only had the strength of 100 gene, but after going through arduous training, it would become 150 gene, 200 gene, and even more. This required a process, and could not be accomplished in one go. However, Yi Chen not only had a powerful mental state and soul, but his martial art was also a heaven realm martial art, which was top-notch in every aspect. This meant that he would be able to bear more cultivation base, but where his limit was, even Yi Chen did not know. Begin refining. With a wave of his hand, more than 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals floated above Yi Chen's head. With the circulation of green lotus sword arts, a powerful Zhen Yuan wrapped around these crystals and rapidly refined them. After attaining the undying body-flesh derivation realm, Yi Chen's entire body could store Zhen Yuan except for the Sea of Soul. Of course, the Dantian could store the most Zhen Yuan. Only after reaching the blood rebirth realm would the Dantian gradually lose its function and become indistinguishable from the other parts. 100,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. 500,000 Zhen Yuan crystals. 2 million Zhen Yuan crystals. Zhen Yuan crystals were excessively pure. With just a bit of refining, they could be converted into Zhen Yuan. In a short 2 hours, Yi Chen's cultivation base increased by another 50 years, surpassing 300 years. The refining continued. 350 years of cultivation base. 400 years of cultivation base. 600 years of cultivation base. A horrifying aura filled up the entire stone room. If it were not for the fact that the stone room was covered with a restriction, it would not be able to handle the powerful pressure from Yi Chen's body at all. Soon, Yi Chen's cultivation base surpassed 800 years. It seemed like there was no limit on Yi Chen's body. His cultivation base increased faster and faster, showing no signs of slowing down at all. 900 years. 1,000 years. Boom. The stone room shook slightly. The light on the surface kept flashing. This was a sign that the aura was so powerful that it clashed with the restriction. 1,050 years. 1,080 years. In the end, Yi Chen's cultivation base stopped at 1,080 years. It was not because Yi Chen had reached his limit, but because the 30 million Zhen Yuan crystals had been used up. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen slowly let out a mouthful of turbid qi. This mouthful of turbid qi was so powerful that it even melted part of the restriction on the stone room's surface, making a sizzling sound. 1,080 years of cultivation base is actually not my limit. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. Then he burst out with a heroic spirit. This meant that he could continue to use external items to raise his cultivation base. With his current cultivation base, although he was still at the bottom among titled monarchs, his potential was limitless. Sooner or later, he would surpass 2,000 years, or even 3,000 years, and reach the level of the Dragon King. Creak. Clenching his fist tightly, Yi Chen felt a volcanic eruption of energy rushing to the center of his fist. The level of one's cultivation base did not have much of an impact on one's battle prowess. However, it did not mean that there was no impact at all. The higher one's cultivation base, the more Zhen Yuan each move would contain. Their battle prowess would more or less increase. At this moment, Yi Chen's battle prowess had reached a whole new level. All of a sudden, Yi Chen felt his consciousness becoming clearer. Without using any soul power, he could clearly feel the subtle changes of the heaven and earth, the undulations of the air, the fluctuations of the restriction's power. Everything was vivid in his mind. The flowers and grasses outside the stone room were growing tenaciously. When the wind blew through the leaves, it transmitted an imperceptible energy into the room. He could even feel a trace of the undulations in the depths of the earth. My cultivation base has suddenly increased by several times, allowing me to experience the changes of this world. Yi Chen suddenly understood. Life was like a magnetic field. When one was weak, the magnetic field would be too weak, and the outside world would be hazy. One would need to use the naked eye to see and observe. The spirit body was just a body, and it did not have the advantage of observing the outside world. On the other hand, cultivation base was what a person had the most contact with the outside world. This was because cultivation base was transformed from the yuan qi of the world, and it was the bridge between humans and the world. 1,000 years of cultivation base could be said to be a checkpoint for life and death kings. After crossing it, a whole new world would appear before Yi Chen's eyes. Defensive sword art. Pensive, Yi Chen's thoughts moved. and the Sky Scorpio sword floated out, splitting into 3, then 60, 62, 64, 66. Unknowingly, Yi Chen's defensive sword art had already surpassed the level of 64 swords, and he could already use the 8 trigrams extermination sword art. Apart from this, Yi Chen could clearly feel that his soul's strength was increasing. The amount of soul didn't change, but the soul's strength increased. This was a qualitative improvement. For example, although the soul of Yuan Emperor's doppelganger was not much, its quality was too frightening. It could use a powerful soul attack like Primordial Spirit Lock to obliterate the opponent's soul source. On the other hand, Yi Chen's soul attack could only injure the opponent's soul. Among life and death kings, there were strong and weak souls. The increase in quantity was very slow, but the increase in quality could be a bit faster. The strengthening of the soul was closely related to the increase in cultivation base. After each saturation, the process of breaking through the limit was also the process of the soul strengthening. If the soul didn't strengthen, how could it bear more cultivation base? Of course, Yi Chen was an exception. He hadn't reached the saturation limit, but because his cultivation base had suddenly increased from 200 years to 1,000 years, the improvement was too huge, causing a change in his soul. Before, Yi Chen's soul hadn't been completely aroused. Just like the majority of people's brains, some people were smart because their brains were developed to a high degree. Chapter 951. So it turns out that my soul potential has not been fully activated. Yi Chen understood. No wonder he felt that although his comprehension had increased, it was not 10 times that of others. At most, it was only a few times. It seems like I can start creating the third movement of the Autumn Water Sword spell now. The first movement of the Autumn Water Sword spell was Waning Moon, and the second was Congealing Water. The third movement was very difficult for Yi Chen, mainly because Yi Chen's Metal Profound and Water Profound had already reached completion. With these two profounds as the foundation, creating a powerful sword movement was not something that could be done in a day, and required a lot of accumulation. In the sword world, Yi Chen had seen thousands of sword arts. Adding on the increase in his comprehension, what do the others in the family think? Time to create the third movement of the Autumn Water Sword spell. Most of them supported. But before that, only there was one more thing he had to give up on the Yi family, which was to integrate the Yi family. They think that creating a new sect is not good for the Yi family, and the Changtian martial school, but the minority follows the majority. New martial school. So it's normal for some to oppose it. I have wanted to talk to you about this for a long time. What do you want to name this sect? Spirit Beauty Shen Yiqing asked, one of the main peaks of the Yi family. Cleared his throat. In the courtyard at the top of the peak, although nothing has been decided yet, I've thought of a name. Yiqing. Let's call it Sword Master, drinking tea my original title. Sword Master. Yi Chen looked at Yi Tianhao. Yi Tianhao and Yixing smiled and brightened up. I have discussed with your father was Yi Chen's title in the master level, martial school, which meant that it was way too powerful. But it also brought a lot of trouble of your identity. Judging by the name alone, we also know that all the sword martial schools, the Sky Cloud Martial School, the Sword Master would definitely be the most powerful one. It will be hard for you to take care of the Sky Cloud Martial School. But what if you don't create a martial school? It will be hard for you to take care of the Sky Sword Continent was the holy land of sword arts. And there will be a grudge in your heart. Since Yi Chen named the sect Sword Master, why not create a martial school? The king-level warriors many martial schools have many families anyway. Would definitely be very families dissatisfied. And sects did not they might even come to cause trouble. Sects were all about the origin coming to cause trouble was not a small matter. For example, in the future, in some sects, when people from many factions went out, and some families would be very powerful. Families, on the other hand, focused on bloodline not been created yet. After all, once it is, everyone had the same blood flowing in their veins. Creating a sect was not a small matter. Families also had their weaknesses. He had to confirm it first, and that was that they could not stay strong for long. Whether it could be created or not was still unknown. No matter how many people there were in a family, it was still limited. With enough luck, it was fine to have many geniuses. If he could establish it, enough luck, his burden would be even heavier. He had to increase his strength as fast as possible. If once his battle strength reached the level of a 5-star tyrant, the Yi family might become a nice-rank family again, wanted to provoke or even not. They would have to think twice. As long as you were a 6-star battle strength, you could be recruited into the sect and trained well. That would simply be seeking death. Loyalty would not be a problem. The current leader of Sky Cloud Martial School was Luo Hanshan. In the main hall, not only Luo Hanshan was there, but also the Supreme Master and many inner elders of Sky Cloud Martial School. I agreed to merge Sky Cloud Martial School with the new sect. Everyone knows about Yi Chen's power and potential. He will definitely make this new sect one of the top few martial schools in Elysium. If Sky Cloud Martial School does not agree to join the new sect, although there might be a life and death realm warrior in the future, and turn it into a rank 5 martial school, that will be during peaceful times. Right now, the alien race's calamity is approaching, and Yi Chen is only one person. He cannot protect both the Yi family and Sky Cloud Martial School at the same time. At that time, whether Sky Cloud Martial School can survive or not is still unknown. Right now, Luo Hanshan's cultivation base had already reached the peak of Mid-Sea of Soul's realm, only one step away from Late Sea of Soul's realm. However, his wife, Zhu Mei, was even more powerful, having already reached Late Sea of Soul's realm. The two were now one of the top 5 warriors of Sky Cloud Martial School. The leader of the top 5 was Zhang Haoran, who had reached the peak of Late Sea of Soul's realm. I agree as well. Zhang Haoran had calmed down a lot. Between his eyebrows, there seemed to be a sense of determination and dignity. Leader, actually, we can also temporarily join this martial school and leave after the alien race's calamity is over. After all, Yi Chen is our great master. He should not make things difficult for us. Some of the older inner masters were not willing to join the new martial school. They had too deep feelings for the Sky Cloud Martial School, and they did not want the school to disappear in the long river of history. Luo Hanshan sighed and said, "The leader position of a martial school is not only passed down from generation to generation, but also to the most capable ones. Actually, there is nothing wrong with joining this martial school. It is not like becoming someone else's slave. As long as you have enough talent and achievements, in 100 years, or even hundreds of years, anyone would have the chance to become the leader." Moreover, Yi Chen suggested that the new martial school should have 3 main halls, one of which would be the Sky Cloud Hall. The hall leader would be our Sky Cloud Hall. Luo Hanshan did not have any ambition for the position of the leader. He had always been envious of Yi Chen, who had been traveling around the world. For him, or for most of the geniuses, cultivation was the most important thing. As for the founder of the Sky Cloud Martial School, it was not Luo Hanshan's ancestor. Every generation, the most capable person would be the leader. If Yi Chen had agreed, he would have become the leader of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Therefore, deep down in Luo Hanshan's heart, he did not think it was a big deal to join a new martial school. He believed that after tens or hundreds of years, people would also develop feelings for the new martial school. Since there are people who agree and people who disagree, let's vote by raising our hands. At this moment, Luo Xinglia, Luo Hanshan's father, stood out. Yes, let's vote by raising our hands. Cloud Dreamer and Thunder Freer also nodded. In the end, there were still a lot of people who agreed. It was mainly because everyone respected Yi Chen. Those who were against it were actually not without hesitation. Being able to join Yi Chen's sect was more or less attractive. After deciding to join Yi Chen's martial school, Luo Hanshan sent a messenger to the Yi family on the same day. Only the Eternal Sky Martial School is left. Yi Chen did not expect things to go so smoothly, but thinking about it, it did make some sense. The martial schools in Elysium were not the same as those in the movies in Yi Chen's previous world. Only those who had the ability could become the leader, and there was no such thing as inheritance. As long as one had the power and talent, they would be respected wherever they went. Eternal Sky Martial School is Senior Battle King's martial school, and I can be considered half a disciple of Senior Battle King. It should not be a problem. His body flickered as Yi Chen tore open the space and rushed toward the Blood Sky continent. While Yi Chen was heading toward the Blood Sky continent, 6 figures were flying toward the True Spirit continent from the West Ocean. Among these 6 people, 2 were precisely Black Water Ancestor and Yellow Robe Ancestor. Black Water Ancestor and Yellow Robe Ancestor seemed to have recovered. Golden Turtle Ancestor. If we just barge into the True Spirit continent and attack the Yi family, won't the other martial schools be unhappy and think that we are too arrogant? The one who spoke was a skinny old man in black robes. He was not an ordinary person, but the Black Fiend Emperor, the leader of the Black Fiend Island. The middle-aged man in blue robes next to him was the leader of the demon god cult, the Earth Demon Emperor, and the one in red robes was the red water ancestor. As for the one in gold robes with a thick back and wide shoulders, he was the leader of the West Ocean's Golden Turtle Island, the Golden Turtle ancestor. A total of 6 emperors were flying toward the True Spirit continent. Golden Turtle ancestor sneered. Don't worry, the True Spirit continent is not some tiger's den. If I can go in, I can come out. Plus, they probably don't have the guts to stop me. Of course, everyone says that Su King is powerful, but Su King is nothing compared to you. Black Water Ancestor flattered Golden Turtle Ancestor. Haha, I'll take this opportunity to see if that Yi Chen has 3 heads and 6 arms. Also, if that Xianhou dares to come, I'll bring her back. Such a beautiful woman is the most suitable to be my Golden Turtle Ancestor's wife. Golden Turtle Ancestor often went into seclusion. Before he went into seclusion, Xianhou had not yet been born. Apart from Xianhou, there is also the Demon Flower Emperor, who is also a beauty. Black Water Ancestor sneered. Alright, I'll bring him back as well. Golden Turtle Ancestor's voice carried an unquestionable aura, as if no one could stop him if he wanted to get something. We have arrived at the True Spirit continent. At this moment, everyone saw the coastline through the space barrier. Blood Sky Continent, Eternal Sky Sect. Things went smoothly. Without much persuasion, all the elders of Eternal Sky Sect agreed to join Yi Chen's sect. Sect leader Li Changtian did not object either. After all, Yi Chen was the ancestor's disciple. Plus, Eternal Sky Sect's days in the Blood Sky Continent were not good. They could not always trouble Yi Chen to protect them. Chapter 952. After receiving the reply from Eternal Sky School, Yi Chen was in a good mood. So he went to chaotic demon ocean. Murong Qingqing was still in seclusion, but the demon flower emperor said that within half a year, Murong Qingqing would be able to comprehend life and death, and enter the life and death realm. At that time, she would be able to completely awaken the demon's power. At that time, she would know which race of demons she had inherited. For example, the demon flower emperor had inherited the flower demon bloodline. Golden turtle ancestor, congratulations on coming out of seclusion. I wonder what brings you to True Spirit Continent. In True Spirit Continent, Golden Turtle Ancestor, and the other 5 were blocked by a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes. Golden Turtle Ancestor grinned. Ling Tianxiu, I don't think I need your permission to come to True Spirit Continent, do I? The middle-aged man in luxurious clothes was none other than the famous Su King, whose real name was Ling Tianxiu. Su King smiled lightly. You don't need my permission, but I don't need yours to stop you either. Humph. Golden Turtle Ancestor's face turned cold. You think you can stop me? You can try. Facing the incomparably powerful Golden Turtle Old Ancestor, the illusionary Emperor's expression remained the same. His eyes seemed to contain the void, devouring the heavens and earth. His imposing manner was not inferior to the domineering aura of the Golden Turtle Old Ancestor. All right, I want to see how much you've improved in the past few decades. Golden Turtle Ancestor had been in seclusion for decades. Decades ago, Su King was a junior in his eyes, and now, he was still a junior. Boom! Opening his mouth, Golden Turtle Ancestor shot out a beam of golden light toward Su King. As soon as it appeared, the whole world seemed to have lost its color, and the space seemed to have melted. Golden Turtle Ancestor, do you think you can beat me back with just a beam of light? Su King sneered, and reached out with his right hand. Pooh! The golden light was extinguished, and Su King's hand seemed to contain the power to tear the world apart. Good, seems like you've grown a lot stronger. The Golden Turtle Great Ancestor was slightly surprised. He was a demonic beast, and the demonic power that came out of his mouth was not inferior to an ordinary ultimate move. This was the breath of a demonic beast. 4 moves of gold breaking. Sensing Su King's strength, the Golden Turtle Ancestor became serious. With a grab of his hand, the palm force transformed into a golden dragon claw, tearing the sky and splitting the earth. It was incomparably huge, and the sharp claws were more terrifying than any weapon. They could probably tear apart an ordinary top-grade defensive artifact and pierce through the body. Good timing. Raising his right hand, Su King struck out with his palm. Similarly, his golden palm blotted out the sky and was unstoppable. Rumble! The golden dragon claw and the golden palm collided fiercely, and the resulting shockwave tore the earth apart. Scorching lava spewed up, and flames soared into the sky. Black Water Ancestor and the other 4 groaned, and hurriedly raised their protective Zhen Yuan, retreating several dozen li to avoid being injured by the shockwave. Below them, a small mountain range was instantly annihilated, as if it had never existed. The battle between 2 peak monarchs had far surpassed their imaginations. Peak of 5 stars, with his hands behind his back, the Golden Turtle Ancestor's expression sank. Su King's battle strength was not the rumored high-grade 5-star, but the peak of 5-star. Golden Turtle Ancestor, I'm not here to find trouble with you. I just want to ask, what is your purpose in coming to True Spirit Continent? Su King didn't intend to continue and asked. The Golden Turtle Ancestor pondered for a moment and said, My purpose this time is to annihilate the Yi clan. I shouldn't have violated your taboo, right? Su King's strength made the Golden Turtle Ancestor not dare to be unbridled. If the Yi clan had any relationship with Su King, then he would have to think it over. As for annihilating the Yi clan, it was basically impossible. Even when beating a dog, one must look at its master. The Golden Turtle Ancestor wasn't prepared to completely fall out with Su King. Yi clan. Su King glanced at the Golden Turtle Ancestor, then glanced at the Black Water Ancestor and the others. He frowned and said after a while, Move quickly. Don't cause too much of a commotion. Offending the Golden Turtle Ancestor and the other 5 monarchs for the sake of a Yi clan. If not for having nothing better to do, no one would be so bored as to interfere. All right, a mere Yi clan won't waste too much of my time. The golden turtle ancestor saw that Su King didn't stop him and laughed. He waved his hand and said to the Blackwater ancestor and the others, "Let's go. Let's finish this as soon as possible." Su King gave him face, so he had to do the same. Not good. It's the golden turtle ancestor. Is he heading towards South Ridra region? Mysterious sect. Xianhou discovered the traces of the golden turtle ancestor and the others. When she realized that the golden turtle ancestor was heading towards South Ridra region, Xianhou had a bad premonition. Apart from the Yi clan, there were no other 5th grade forces in South Ridra region. Only the Yi clan barely had the qualifications to dispatch 6 titled monarchs. A space door appeared in front of her, and Xianhou stepped inside. This is the Yi clan? Not bad. There are actually so many great arrays protecting it. The golden turtle ancestor looked through the water and earth chain great array, and the fire dragon burning sky great array. Break for me. Raising his right hand, the golden turtle ancestor clawed toward the Yi clan. Golden turtle ancestor, what are you trying to do? In front of the Yi clan, the space door opened. Xianhou pushed forward with her right hand, and space doors formed one after another, welcoming the golden dragon claw of the golden turtle ancestor. Pung 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 pung. The golden dragon claw was like a hot knife through butter, shattering a large number of space doors. When it approached Xianhou, its power was less than 10%, and it was shattered by Xuanhou's finger. Xianhou has been waiting for you. The Blackwater ancestor chuckled and said to the golden turtle ancestor, "She is the world-famous Xianhou. What do you think, golden turtle ancestor?" "Haha, what a peerless beauty." The golden turtle ancestor laughed heartily. "Yi clan. What happened?" Yi Tianhao, Shen Yuqing, and the elders of the Yi clan walked out of their residences and looked outside. 7 kings. Even if they had never eaten pork, they had seen pigs run. How could they not know that the 7 people outside were all life and death realm warriors, who had Yi family offended to attract the attention of 6 king-level warriors? If not for mysterious queen's interference, it would be hard to say whether Yi family's great formation would have been able to defend. That golden dragon claw was too frightening. Everyone activate the great array. Yi Tianhao made a prompt decision and yelled. Whether or not the great array was controlled by someone was 2 different things. With someone controlling it, the array's might would be a bit stronger. Without someone controlling it, the might could only reach the standard. As Yi Tianhao's voice faded, hundreds of figures spread out, each standing on the control points of the great array. In the next moment, outside the Yi clan, the illusory mountains were connected by illusory rivers. This was the sign of the water and earth interlocking great array, being activated at full power. It could block ordinary life and death kings for a long time, and even titled monarchs would find it hard to break it in 2 or 3 moves. Golden Turtle Ancestor, your Golden Turtle Island is located in the depths of the West Ocean. Why did you attack Yi clan after coming out of seclusion? If Yi clan has offended you in any way, I can compensate for it. Xuanhou's beautiful brows creased as she said solemnly. Blackwater Ancestor said coldly, "You probably don't know yet, but Yi Chen ran to my Blackwater Alliance and robbed over 100 million quasi-low-grade Jinyuan crystals, 20 million supreme-grade spirit stones, and several billion upper-grade spirit stones. If you can compensate for it, it won't be too hard to negotiate." Blackwater Ancestor was extremely malicious. Yi Chen had clearly taken over 30 million Jinyuan crystals, 5 million supreme-grade spirit stones, and less than 900 million upper-grade spirit stones. However, in his words, it was several times more. Chapter 953. The 5 titled monarchs attacked the Yi clan, and Xuanhou's sky-stealing sun-swapping ultimate move could not stop them at all. In a short while, the spatial doors surrounding the Yi clan were all shattered. Activate the sky-burning dragon array. Yi Tianhao stood at the core of the array and poured his quintessential essence into the array. Roar! Outside the Yi clan, fire dragons emerged one after another, shaking their heads and wagging their tails as they charged at Patriarch Blackwater and the others. Petty tricks. Patriarch Blackwater sneered and slapped a fire dragon's head, easily killing it. The other fire dragons could not do anything to the 4 titled monarchs. At most they could delay them. The Yi clan was in danger. Truly, each generation has its own talent. Your strength has actually reached the advanced 5-star level. Patriarch Golden Turtle did not use his full strength in the battle against Xianhou. But even so, he used 60 to 70% of his strength. But as time passed, he found that he could not suppress her. Same to you. The mysterious queen's face became more and more serious. The Golden Turtle Great Ancestor was indeed the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor. Although the battle seemed to be evenly matched, she knew that the opponent had not used his full power yet. Perhaps he had not even used 80% of his power. No matter how she attacked or how she used her space profound to counterattack, the opponent could still defuse her attacks easily. Snow-filling universe. All of a sudden, the mysterious queen cast aside her space profound martial art and used an ice and wind profound martial art instead. Heavy snow filled the sky, and the snowflakes formed a hexagonal shape. Each snowflake seemed to be compressed from an iceberg, releasing an incomparably terrifying freezing air. When the freezing air spread out, even the space was frozen and cracked. In some areas where the freezing air was more concentrated, it formed a whirlwind-like freezing air current that rushed towards the Golden Turtle Patriarch. Embryonic form of a top-tier profound martial art. The Golden Turtle Old Ancestor was shocked. A peak-tier profound martial art was a super martial art created with two perfect profound as the foundation. The Golden Turtle Old Ancestor could see that the mysterious queen's ice profound and wind profound were already perfect. If it wasn't for the imperfect fusion, the power of this move could be increased by several times. Even so, this snow world filling was already considered a quasi-peak tier profound martial art, and its power could shake the world. 9 Palaces invisible armor. Not daring to underestimate this move, the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor roared, and a large amount of golden light burst out from his body, forming 9 pieces of golden armor. The golden armor was arranged in the shape of 9 palaces, protecting the Golden Turtle Great Ancestor. Kacha. The frozen air drowned Patriarch Golden Turtle. When the hexagonal snowflakes landed on the 9 pieces of golden armor, a series of muffled sounds erupted. As the muffled sounds spread out, the frozen air that was several times stronger than before exploded crazily, causing Patriarch Blackwater and the other 400s of kilometers away to feel a strange chill. They could not help but take more than 10 steps back and circulate their protective quintessential essence, or demonic power, to the limit. Bang! The earth trembled as a glacier that was hundreds of meters tall smashed into the ground. At the center of the glacier, a faint golden light flickered. He actually sealed the great ancestor of Golden Turtle Island inside. Patriarch Blackwater's face was filled with disbelief. Xianhou is indeed worthy of being one of the most secretive people. Nobody knows where her bottom line is. The leader of the demonic god cult, Earth Demonic Emperor, said cautiously. The majority of life and death kings knew that Xianhou's surface strength was around mid-5 stars. However, this time, the strength Xianhou revealed was clearly high-level 4 stars. Moreover, the last move Snow World truly had a world-shaking might. Even the great ancestor of Golden Turtle Island was somewhat unable to withstand it. Unsurprisingly, Xianhou had been hiding her strength all along. I'm afraid I won't be able to seal him. Xianhou was not so optimistic. The strength of the great ancestor was not something that could be sealed easily. Even if Su King came, he might not be able to defeat the great ancestor. As expected, just as this thought flashed through Mysterious Queen's mind, a few cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the glacier. The cracks widened, and in the next moment, the entire glacier exploded with a boom. The Golden Turtle Old Ancestor walked out unscathed. The 9 pieces of golden armor outside his body sparkled, and traces of icy water dripped down. What a good move, Snow World. Now I'll let you see my true strength. The great ancestor of Golden Turtle Island was a demonic beast that was much older than the Black Dragon Old Ancestor. His original form was a golden turtle, and he had the bloodline of a giant dragon and a black shell tortoise. Because the tortoise shell on his back was innately imprinted with 9 palace patterns, his comprehension ability was much higher than that of demonic beasts, almost not inferior to humans. Thus, he was able to suppress the Black Dragon Old Ancestor and gain a great reputation among titled monarchs. Gold-shattering force style, heaven collapsing earth rending. With a wave of his claw, the space continuously exploded, giving people the feeling that the sky had collapsed. The earth's crust cracked, and the magnetic field changed, making people unable to stand stably. Great ancestor golden turtle, you are about to enter your coffin, yet you still came to cause trouble. Regarding what happened that day, the yellow-robed old monster had been brooding. He felt that if he had been careful and guarded against Yi Chen's soul attack, his soul wouldn't have been injured. Today, he came to take revenge. Yi Chen, you should have thought of this day when you looted my Blackwater Alliance's true essence crystals. Today, we will not only destroy your Yi family, but we will also tear you into pieces. Patriarch Blackwater's aura was like a rainbow. He didn't think that Yi Chen had the possibility of fighting against the five of them. Is that so? In today's life and death battle, let's see who will bleed 5 steps. With his hand on the ice-cold sword hilt, Yi Chen's eyes gradually sharpened. The Yi family was already in chaos. Chinner is back. What should we do? How can he deal with 5 titled monarchs alone? Some elders of the Yi family were worried. This matter didn't only concern Yi Chen's safety, but also the Yi family's survival. 6 titled monarchs were attacking, and all they could do was watch. There was no other way. They naturally hoped that Yi Chen could defeat the enemies, but the hope was too slim. Big brother, kill them. Yi Xian roared. He, who had killed before, had a strong killing intent. We are powerless. Everything depends on Chinner. Yi Tianhao stared at Yi Chen without blinking. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. Beside him, Shen Yuqing was also very nervous and held his breath. It's just Yi Chen. I'll take him down. The demon god cult's leader, the Earth Demon Sovereign, was the first to act. With a thought, 1,000 zhang tall giant rushed towards Yi Chen and punched. Swish! Yi Chen had already released his sword domain. He moved and appeared behind the giant. There was a small hole in the giant's abdomen. Sword chi was flowing everywhere. Kill! Yi Chen sent out a orbital slayer secret sword at Patriarch Blackwater. At the same time, the silver vertical eye on his forehead opened and shot out a silver beam of light. This silver beam of light was more condensed than when he fought with Patriarch Blackwater. It had the tendency to transform into a sword light, and its speed was much faster. Pop! Patriarch Blackwater's head fell back as blood flowed from his 7 orifices. He had long been prepared for Yi Chen's soul attack. However, he didn't expect Yi Chen's soul attack to be much faster and more powerful than before. He didn't even have time to fully execute his soul defense mystic art before he was hit. Not good. Patriarch Blackwater roared inwardly. Chi! The invisible sword Chi was about to sweep past Patriarch Blackwater's head. I'm here. How can you be impudent? At the critical moment, the yellow-robed Patriarch sent out a golden jadeite silk finger. The thread-like finger force blocked the invisible sword Chi. In the end, the finger force dissipated, and the invisible sword Chi weakened greatly. Chapter 954. What kind of attack is this? Earth Demon Monarch, Black Fiend Monarch, and Old Monster Redwater were horrified. They discovered that the 8 trigram sword array had not only locked down space, but even Yin and Yang were in chaos. Once Yin and Yang were in chaos, everything was in chaos. The space they were in was covered by a black and white Yin and Yang diagram. Yi Chen was expressionless. The sword control art was a mystical sword art. The higher the realm, the more terrifying the lethality. The Big Dipper 7-star sword art combined with sword domain was already one of Yi Chen's strongest killing moves. However, compared to the 8 trigrams extermination sword art, it was undoubtedly nothing. The 8 trigrams extermination sword art alone was not weaker than the Big Dipper 7-star sword art combined with sword domain. Once combined with sword domain, the power of the 8 trigrams extermination sword art was several times stronger than the former. More importantly, after his cultivation had increased to the 1,000-year level, Yi Chen's soul strength had increased greatly. The power of the sword control art had also increased. The combination of the two made the 8 trigrams extermination sword art extremely terrifying. Puff! Sounds that sounded like bubbles rang out. The Earth Demon Sovereign and the Black Fiend Sovereign were sent flying, their bodies badly mutilated. Their auras were faintly discernible. As for old monster Redwater, who was the weakest, he was directly crushed into a mist of blood by the 8 trigram sword formation. His immortal body had not reached the blood rebirth realm. How is this possible? The yellow-robed old freak's eyes widened. It was extremely difficult for a titled monarch to kill a titled monarch. Although old Redwater only had a low 5-star battle strength, it shouldn't be impossible for him to die in one move. To be able to kill old Redwater in one move, one's battle strength had to be at least at the high 5-star level. Last time, when he fought Yi Chen, the latter seemed to be at mid 5-star level. How could he suddenly reach the high 5-star level? Yi Chen, you actually dared to kill old monster Redwater. Do you know that you have made a huge mistake? The yellow-robed freak couldn't accept this scene, and Patriarch Blackwater couldn't accept it either. A titled monarch had been killed just like that. There were only a few titled monarchs in the entire Elysium. If one died, there would be one less titled monarchs. Yi Chen had killed Crimson Water Freak. To Patriarch Blackwater, this was a crime. What a joke. Could it be that only you are allowed to kill me, and I am not allowed to kill you? Today all of you will die. The 8 trigram sword array took form once again and attacked Patriarch Blackwater. I'll fight you to the death. Patriarch Blackwater's body emitted a strong electric current. He was like a huge light bulb. With a boom, it was as if hundreds of lightning bolts had exploded at the same time. A hole was blasted open in the 8 trigram sword array, and a blood figure escaped through the hole. At the critical moment, Patriarch Blackwater used the forbidden technique of the heavy water true thunder art. At the cost of burning his cultivation, he managed to escape. You made me lose half of my cultivation, and I can't make up for it. I can only cultivate again. How hateful. The price to pay for using the forbidden technique was extremely high. Patriarch Blackwater originally had more than 1,000 years of cultivation, but after burning it, he was left with less than 700 years. The hatred he had for Yi Chen could never be washed away in this lifetime. Can you escape? How could Yi Chen let Patriarch Blackwater escape? The 8 trigram sword array continued to chase after him. Ah, Patriarch Golden Turtle, save me! Patriarch Blackwater shouted, and rushed in the direction of Patriarch Golden Turtle. Oh! Patriarch Golden Turtle fought Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhou alone. It looked like they were evenly matched. Seeing Patriarch Blackwater escape, he said, Yi Chen, spare his life, and I won't destroy your Yi family. Otherwise, no one will be spared. Pfft! Before Patriarch Golden Turtle finished speaking, Patriarch Blackwater turned into a mist of blood. The might of the 8 trigrams extermination sword art was astonishing. It could be called a sure kill sword art. You're dead. A green aura flashed across his face, and Patriarch Golden Turtle's body suddenly expanded, turning into a giant beast that looked like a dragon but not a dragon, a tortoise but not a tortoise. It was his true form, Golden Turtle. Golden Turtle carried a golden tortoise shell on its back, and it was as huge as a mountain. With a push of its limbs, the ground cracked. With a rumbling sound, Patriarch Golden Turtle turned into a giant beast and rushed towards Yi Chen, ignoring the attacks of Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhou. This old guy is really durable. Demon Flower Emperor naturally wouldn't let Patriarch Golden Turtle attack Yi Chen. As she quickly formed seals with both hands, the demon flower took root in the ground, and countless demon vines shot out, binding Patriarch Golden Turtle tightly. Break! Patriarch Golden Turtle was extremely powerful, and his limbs exerted force, breaking the demon vines inch by inch. Snow filling heaven and earth. Xuanhou's killer move came. Countless cold air erupted, and Patriarch Golden Turtle was frozen. Although it couldn't hurt Patriarch Golden Turtle, it could at least stop him for a while. Thank you, seniors. Yi Chen didn't believe that he could fight against Patriarch Golden Turtle. His opponent's defense probably couldn't be broken by the 8 trigrams extermination sword art. Swoosh! Teleporting through the void, Yi Chen chased after Patriarch Yellow-Robed. Patriarch Yellow-Robed fled very quickly. When he saw Patriarch Scarlet Water and Patriarch Blackwater die in Yi Chen's hands one after another, he felt that something was amiss. He immediately flew away at his fastest speed. Patriarch Yellow-Robed, you won't be able to escape. Yi Chen's cold voice entered Patriarch Yellow-Robed's ears. Patriarch Yellow-Robed roared. Yi Chen, the alien race's calamity is imminent. You can't kill me. If you kill me, you will face the suppression of all the monarchs in the world. Don't think about other things. You are a titled monarch and so am I. When you came to kill me, why didn't you think of the alien race's calamity? I, Yi Chen, never provoke others, but I won't sacrifice myself for the so-called big picture. Those who kill will be killed. Today, you will die without a doubt. Yi Chen's determination to kill Patriarch Yellow-Robed was extremely firm. No one could shake it. In this world where the strong were revered, there was no dignity to compromise. Whether it was the alien race or the human race, as long as they were enemies, they would be killed without mercy. On the other hand, if he died, the apocalypse would come. What did it have to do with him? Only by being alive would there be endless possibilities. Beast, you are not worthy of being a human. Patriarch Yellow-Robed was in despair. The distance between him and Yi Chen rapidly shrank. Yi Chen, who was proficient in the profound Tao of space, wasn't someone he could compare to. World extermination. The 8 trigram sword array formed. Yi Chen's sword fingers quickly pointed out. Boom. In the end, Patriarch Blackwater and Patriarch Redwater couldn't compare to the yellow-robed old man. His battle prowess was at the mid-tier of 5 stars. At this crucial moment, he activated the Daluo Yellow Robe, blocking behind him. However, the Daluo Yellow Robe wasn't omnipotent. It could only weaken a portion of the chi. The majority of the chi still landed on his back, blasting him away. I'm too far away. Patriarch Yellow-Robed, who was vomiting blood, didn't give up. Borrowing the momentum of the impact, he continued to flee. Truly hard to kill. The silver vertical eye on Yi Chen's forehead opened, shooting out a silver beam of light. Patriarch Yellow-Robed staggered, but his speed didn't slow down. He had already been guarding against Yi Chen's soul attack. He had used a soul defense secret art in advance. Yi Chen's expression didn't change. He shot out the second soul light. The third soul light. Adding the soul light he had used on Patriarch Blackwater, Yi Chen had used soul light a total of 4 times. With his soul power, he could only use it 5 times. After 5 times, his soul power would be exhausted, and his battle prowess would be reduced to less than 10%. Therefore, he couldn't use it for the 5th time. Fortunately, after 3 soul light attacks, Patriarch Yellow-Robe's soul had been injured. He couldn't control his Zhen Yuan perfectly, and his speed had decreased imperceptibly. Die. With 1,000 years of cultivation, Yi Chen could use the 8 trigrams extermination sword art many times without any worries, bombarding the yellow-robed old man in front of him again and again. After the 7th attack, Patriarch Yellow-Robed, who had dominated the South Sea for countless years, instantly turned into a blood mist. However, the blood mist condensed once again, turning back into Patriarch Yellow-Robed. Is this the realm of blood rebirth? Yi Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. He naturally knew that titled monarchs were hard to kill, but he didn't expect it to be this hard. If he wasn't proficient in space profound, even if his battle prowess was stronger than Patriarch Yellow-Robed, he wouldn't be able to stop his opponent. He could only watch as the latter fled. Yi Chen, you can't kill me. Patriarch Yellow-Robe's voice was hoarse. Try it then. With a shift, Yi Chen finally caught up to Patriarch Yellow-Robed and blocked his path. Great Luo Yellow-Robe, explode! The old freak in yellow robes seemed to have been prepared for this. His long yellow robes suddenly covered Yi Chen before exploding violently. The resulting shockwaves stacked on top of each other, blowing up a huge hole in the 2 skies above his head. The chi flow shot up into the sky. Haha, it won't be so easy to kill me. This time, even if you don't die, you'll be crippled. Patriarch Yellow-Robed felt carefree in his heart. He believed that he wasn't Yi Chen's match, so he pretended to be weak and chose to flee. Even though Yi Chen had heavily injured him many times, he still endured. He wanted to wait until Yi Chen relaxed and kill him in one strike, not giving him any chance. However, he had also paid a huge price. Yi Chen's attacks contained a destructive sword intent that was difficult to eliminate. Adding on the injuries to his soul, it could be said that without several years of recuperation, it would be impossible for him to fully recover. Apart from this great Luo Yellow Robe was also a rare top-grade treasure that he had coincidentally obtained. It was priceless. Choosing to explode the robe made his heart ache. But it was all worth it, as long as he could kill Yi Chen. So what if he destroyed the Great Luo Yellow Robe? The Great Luo Yellow Robe turned to ashes in the explosion. The flames even melted space. Patriarch Yellow Robed coughed out several mouthfuls of blood, a smile on his face. He should be dead. He murmured. It's too early for you to be happy. Suddenly, a voice came from behind Patriarch Yellow Robed. Impossible. Patriarch Yellow Robed subconsciously turned his head. What welcomed him was the 8 trigram sword array with an aura of destruction. After losing the Great Luo Yellow Robe and being heavily injured, he had less than 50% of his battle strength left. Patriarch Yellow Robed only had time to let out a miserable scream before turning into a bloody mist. The bloody mist tried to squirm, but the destructive sword intent was too dense. The bloody mist squirmed several times before failing. Die! Yi Chen didn't give Patriarch Yellow Robed any chance. The 8 trigram sword array turned the bloody mist to ashes, not leaving a single drop of blood behind. Golden Turtle Patriarch, go back to your Golden Turtle Island. The Demon Flower Emperor said bluntly. Demon Flower Emperor, Xianhou, Yi Chen, you 3 better remember this. The old man transformed back into his human form. His face alternated between green and white as he flew into a rage out of humiliation. Leaving behind these ruthless words, the old man tore through the air and flew out of Yi Chen's sword domain. Victory! Everyone in the Yi family cheered. 6 conferred monarchs had attacked Yi family, but in the end 3 died, 2 escaped and 1 escaped. It could be said that after this battle, no one would dare to attack Yi family anymore. With Yi Chen, our Yi family has hope for hegemony. The elders of Yi family were in high spirits. How long had it been since Yi Chen became a life and death king? In less than half a year, Yi Chen had already become a conferred monarch. Not to mention the current era. Even in the ancient era, it would be shocking. Not only the people of Yi family, even the Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhou were inwardly apprehensive about Yi Chen's progress. Demon Flower Emperor smiled. Your current strength is not much weaker than mine. Seems like I won't be able to help you much in the future. Yi Chen's growth was too astonishing. While the Demon Flower Emperor was shocked, he also rejoiced inwardly. Fortunately, he had made the right bet. With Yi Chen's rapid progress, Yi Chen might even be able to turn the tide and become invincible under the heavens. Once the foreign races were cleared out, he might even be able to cultivate for a few more decades. Then, it would not be impossible for him to clear the path to death. Yi Chen, it seems like I don't need to worry about you anymore. Xianhou revealed a faint smile. High-level 5-star battle strength was more or less a peak battle strength in Elysium. As for those 6-star kings, they were rarely seen. Regardless, Yi Chen still has to thank the 2 seniors for their help. Without the Demon Flower Emperor and Xianhou, although Yi Chen had the ability to protect himself, Yi family did not. He continued, Blackwater Ancestor is dead, and Blackwater Alliance is like a group of dragons without a leader. How about we divide the Devouring Island equally? Hearing Yi Chen mention the Devouring Island, Demon Flower Emperor nodded. The Devouring Island has great significance. I've been thinking about it for a long time. Therefore, I sent a messenger to probe Blackwater Ancestor. I didn't expect you to be 1 step ahead of me and rob the Zhen Yuan crystal treasury of Blackwater Alliance. Your current cultivation base should be more than 1,000 years, right? Yi Chen faintly nodded. Xianhou said, the Devouring Island is too dangerous. If we follow the Blackwater Alliance's path, it will definitely not work. The warriors inside the island had all been tricked into entering. The reason why he was so certain was because of the battle strength one had reached the moment they entered life and death realm. If one was only low-grade or mid-grade 3-star, it would be difficult for one to catch up to Yi Chen. Without some heaven-defying fortune, one would have no hope of catching up. After all, Yi Chen was like the sun at high noon, and there were new transformations almost every day. If one didn't reach the peak in all aspects, there was no way one could compare to him. Coincidentally, on the second day after Marquis Sword Snow entered Life and Death Realm, 3 more people entered Life and Death Realm. However, their movements were not as great as Marquis Sword Snow's. Among the 3, only one had 5-colored heavenly flower, while the other 2 had 3-colored heavenly flowers. However, the successive phenomena alarmed the major powers of Elysium. In half a year, 6 people had entered Life and Death Realm, which was not a good sign. Could it be that the great calamity of the outsiders was about to begin? Regarding the great calamity of the outsiders, not to mention ordinary kings, even titled monarchs were flustered. They would be the first to bear the brunt of the calamity. It should be known that even in the ancient era, Elysium had almost changed masters, not to mention the current era, where there were only a few 6-star kings, and not a single 7-star king. There's not enough time. I can only stake it all. Some powerful kings came out of seclusion one after another, either entering the king-grade forbidden zones in search of treasures, or heading into the starry sky in search of opportunities. Blood Sky Continent, on a desolate plain. I, Thunder Spirit King, have finally become a life and death king. Holding the long blade in his hand, Thunder Spirit King raised his head and laughed heartily, his mood surging. Entering Life and Death Realm was the starting point of cultivation. This was something many people knew. Not entering Life and Death Realm was equivalent to not cultivating for the rest of one's life. Only by entering Life and Death Realm could one comprehend a complete profound and understand the essence of the world. Apart from this, Life and Death Kings had a lifespan of 1,000 years. If they could leave their native world, their lifespan could even reach 100,000 years. Compared to 100,000 years, 300 years of Sea of Soul realm was nothing. The continuous extravagance did not affect Yi Chen's cultivation at all. He had already started to create the 3rd style of the Autumn Water Sword spell. During his trip to the Sword World, Yi Chen had seen thousands of sword arts. Each of them represented a different understanding of the sword. Right now, Yi Chen's mind was filled with sword arts. What he needed to do was to integrate all these sword arts and create his own sword art. After 3 days, the 3rd style of the Autumn Water Sword spell had taken shape. A sword was shot out. It was smooth and soundless, but its power was enough to cut through everything. After a week, the 3rd style had reached completion. Pouring Zhen Yuan into the sword, a jade gold sword aura immediately appeared. When the sword aura sliced through the air, there was not a single sound. The power was extremely reserved, like a stream of water. However, the destructive power it released shocked even Yi Chen. It contained the sharpness of gold. A sword technique that uses metal ultimacy and water ultimacy as the foundation is indeed extraordinary. Profound reaching completion was already an extremely high achievement. When the two were combined into one move, the power would naturally increase exponentially. Of course, Yi Chen also knew that in terms of moves, he could not compete with the majority of titled monarchs. That was because the majority of titled monarchs had cultivated their profounds to completion. The moves they created were no longer high-grade profound martial arts, but close to peak profound martial arts. For example, Xuanho's world-filling snow contained both ice and wind profounds. If it were not for the fact that it wasn't perfectly fused, it would definitely be a peak profound martial art. However, with the 6th step destruction sword intent and sword domain, not only did Yi Chen make up for this disadvantage, he even surpassed it. Time flowed like water. After a month, the 3rd style of the Autumn Water Sword spell was finally completed. In terms of power, it was almost on par with the 8 trigrams extermination sword art. Both had their own merits. One could unleash absolute power in both close and long-range combat, while the other needed distance to erupt with shocking destructive power. This made Yi Chen even more perfect and flawless. This move shall be called Broken Bones. The 1st style of the Autumn Water Sword spell was Waning Moon, the 2nd style was Congealing Water, and the 3rd style was Broken Bones. Broken Bones represented the ability to cut through everything, and its offensive power was extremely high. After completing the Broken Bones, Yi Chen did not remain idle. He still had to convert the 2 peak profound martial arts left behind by Fire Emperor into his own sword arts. Of the 2 peak profound martial arts left behind by Fire Emperor, One was sky-piercing sun, and the other was merciless water and fire. Yi Chen intended to research merciless water and fire. Merciless water and fire, as the name implied, contained the water profound and fire profound. Yi Chen had already reached the completion of the water profound, and Yi Chen had long since started comprehending the fire profound. After entering the life and death realm, he could enter the state of one with the heavens at any time. This allowed him to raise the fire profound to the completion in half a year. In fact, apart from the space profound and slow profound, all the other profounds Yi Chen had comprehended had reached the completion. They were the metal profound, water profound, wood profound, thunder profound, fast profound, and the earth profound, which he had comprehended from the 5 mountain godly fist. For experienced life and death kings, reaching the completion of 1 or 2 profounds was not difficult. What was difficult was comprehending the profounds to perfection. Yi Chen's comprehension was several times that of ordinary kings. Therefore, in half a year, he had comprehended many profounds to the completion. Water profound and fire profound are diametrically opposed. Senior Fire Emperor actually fused the 2 profounds together and created a peak-grade profound martial skill. The more he researched merciless water and fire, the more astonished Yi Chen became. He had a feeling that once this merciless water and fire was converted into a sword art, its might would be incomparably astonishing. Even if his water and fire profound were only at the completion, the might he could erupt with would not be inferior to ordinary peak-grade profound martial skills. Its might would be several times greater than the Autumn Water Sword Art's 3rd style Broken Bones. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.